All right, good evening. My name is Jeanette Ortiz. This is the meeting of the Anne Arundel County Police Accountability Board, May 20, 2024. I would like to go ahead and call this meeting to order. So we will move on to the agenda. The first item on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes from the March 25th meeting. The audio and video recording of the March 25th meeting of the PAB will serve as the minutes for the meeting. At the March meeting, we heard from the Office of Police Accountability, NAMI of Anne Arundel County, and received quarterly updates from the law enforcement agencies. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the March meeting of the board? Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. So next on our agenda, we have public comment. The board will now accept public comment. And just a few friendly reminders before we get started. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to provide public comment. A timer will be used to keep time. Please wrap up your comments once the buzzer sounds. Any remaining time may not be allocated to another speaker. We ask that comments remain civil and appropriate for the various audiences who may be watching the meeting. The board cannot discuss any specific cases, and it is not the practice of the board to engage in back and forth with speakers. So we can begin with public comment. We had an advance sign up from a Nicole Davis. Do you see her in the waiting or as a participant?
You don't see her as an attendee, no.
Okay. Just gonna hang a minute since we haven't gotten through. Just a couple minutes. What I can do too is if we see her come in to the meeting, we can always go back and give her an opportunity to provide those public comments. Is there anyone else who's in attendance who would like to provide public comment at this time?
I do not see any raised hands.
Okay, then we will go ahead and move on. And as I mentioned, if we see Ms. Davis, we'll give her an opportunity. All right, so next on the agenda is legislative update from our Executive Director for the Office of Police Accountability, Ms. Moya Panda. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. At the February meeting, I mentioned there were 4 bills that I was watching, and then in March, I added an additional bill that I was watching. So I thought it was appropriate just to give you an update as to how those bills went through session. The first bill was House Bill 973, and this is the bill that was addressing positive community feedback. And I wanted to let you all know that that bill did pass and was approved by the governor on May 9th of 2024. And that way, the Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission, they're going to be tasked with developing a process for citizens to submit certain feedback. They're also going to require law enforcement agencies to adopt a uniform citizen and positive community feedback process. And they're going to require the law enforcement agencies to maintain these records because they are going to be subject to MPIA requests. And for community members to review those positive feedbacks. Just a reminder that these positive feedbacks are not considered personnel records, so the community will have access to these positive updates. So that bill, House Bill 973 did pass with the approval of the governor on May 9th. The next bill was House Bill 533, which is in the companion Senate Bill 61. And this is the bills that we're trying to give the PAB and investigative powers as well as subpoena powers. That bill failed as it did not make it out of committee in either the House or the Senate. So that bill was stalled in committee. The next bill that I talked about was House Bill 188. And this was the bill that wanted to alter the requirements for administrative charges that were needed to be reviewed by the ACC to be filed within 1 year and 1 day of the complaint. And there's also another bill, Senate Bill 0608, as well, that's addressing this 1 year and a day requirement. They both failed, but they were able to get out of the House and they went to the Senate, and there was a report requested by the Judiciary Committee. That I think that maybe next session, these bills may pass because they did make it so far out of the House into the Senate and get a report. So I think there's a possibility these bills will be addressed next session, but as of for this session, it did not go forward. And that's House Bill 188 as well as Senate Bill 608. The final bills that I was looking at was House Bill 8 and their counterpart, which is Senate Bill 48. And I discussed, obviously, there's an effort across the country, but especially in Maryland, there's a shortage of police officers. So they were trying to think of ways to get more applicants in these for these law enforcement agencies. So they wanted to relax some of the requirements. So some of the requirements they tried to use was including honorably discharged veterans. They also wanted to relax citizenship requirements for permanent legal residents. They also wanted to allow members of the Army National Guard or the Air National Guard or any reservists that were eligible to become police officers. So they're trying to give more, get a larger pool of applicants to become police officers. That bill also failed. It did not make it out of committee in either the House or the Senate. So I think, you know, if they're going to address it again next session, they're probably going to have to do, I don't know, maybe a task force or some kind of study to see how they can best present it to the Senate or the House. So I just wanted to give you an update on those 5 bills. Are there any questions?
Kim?
And Jeanette, since you're our legislative person, once the bills that made it out of the House and then went to the Senate and then got the report, what normally happens after that?
Yeah, so I was tracking some of these closely too, and Amoy and I and Ethan were like texting about them. So what happens is when we have what are called cross files. So it's like a House bill and a Senate companion, vice versa, identical bills. Some people like to have that sort of process because, you know, if it gets out of one chamber and it crosses over to the other chamber, sometimes it just helps to move things along. You know, especially if one chamber tends to move things out a little bit faster, which that tends to be the Senate because there's less legislators in the Senate and less bills beginning in the Senate, right? In the House, sometimes things can be delayed because of the number of bills that are introduced in the House with all the legislators there. So what happens is a bill has to pass both chambers in the identical form. And so what happened with the legislation, House Bill 188, and I forget the Senate crossfile, is that, so the Senate, so it was passed, you know, the Senate bill came to the House and it was passed out of the Senate, lots of questions in the House. The House ended up amending, I think, the Senate bill and then putting those amendments on the House bill, passing it to the Senate. But it was late in the session. So by the time the Senate got to the amendments, like they ran out of time to really consider them and kind of flesh them out. You know, we watched the bill hearings. I think there were lots of questions, probably could do a little bit of a cleaner job of maybe explaining the intent and the legislation to the committee. And it was just interesting because the House Judiciary Committee and the Senate Judicial Proceedings Committee were the committees of jurisdiction of the police reform legislation. But remember, we had an election after that, lots of new legislators. So you have folks on the committees that weren't as familiar. So a lot of the details and the minutia, I think that's what held it up. But to Moya's point, I think that legislation is coming next year and, you know, might be an opportunity for us to like weigh in or provide feedback. I know I had conversations with the vice chair of the Judiciary Committee and the Senate sponsor of the legislation. You know, they want to chat further. And so, you know, if we have any ideas on how maybe that legislation could be cleaned up and look a little bit easier, because you may recall that's one of the recommendations in our annual report about this 1 year and a day where you have cases that are being criminally litigated. And that, as we know, tends to take much longer than a year and a day, or can at least take much longer than that. And then what happens is, you know, a lot of time the administrative proceedings are held up until the criminal proceeding, so as not to sort of somehow negatively impact a criminal proceeding. And then, you know, a year and a day passes and there's nothing that can be done administratively. So, you know, those are things that we've looked at, recommendations that we've shared. So there might be an opportunity for us to maybe help clarify, you know, the issue and, you know, what we think would be helpful. So yeah, a lot of times that happens where a bill will pass one chamber and not the other chamber, or they pass, like if you have a crossfile, the Senate bill comes out one way, the House bill comes out another way, and you need a conference committee if there's not agreement to like hash out the differences. And sometimes they don't agree or they run out of time. So I think Kimberly and then Sean.
Yeah, I'm just a comment on what you were just talking about. Normally when that happens, like in criminal versus civil court, they just toll it over on the civil side because of the constitutional issues on the criminal side don't allow for the civil side to go forward without violating the person's constitutional rights. So normally there's a tolling, so you don't have to really extend the time, you can just toll it. I don't know if that's how the bill is written, to toll, to allow a tolling to happen, but maybe that could be a way to address that, because that's what they do in civil court. I had a question about the bill for the PAB. Other than obvious, like, you know, assumptions, any idea in particular why let me go back, HB 533, why that was unappealing that we should know about?
Yeah, when I listened to the hearing, the senators had they had a lot of questions about, you know, why it was needed. Because the law was just, you know, was new. And it looked as though that Baltimore City and Prince George's County were the only two jurisdictions that were really pressing this. And they did not want the wants of Baltimore City and Prince George's County to be forced on the other counties through the state. And so that was one of the main concerns. Another concern was the ACC already had subpoena power, so they did not think it was necessary for the PAB to also have that power, since they were not reviewing investigative files, etc. So those were the concerns from the questionings that I heard at that particular hearing.
Yeah, and that's right on point. And just even historically, when they were having all the work group sessions, you know, before the police reform legislation was introduced in 2021. So there were lots of conversations about that, and there wasn't an appetite from leadership or from the General Assembly to give subpoena powers to the PAB, because they want the PAB to be the oversight and the ACC to have its role and the agency to have its role. And so that was a fundamental difference between the advocates and the General Assembly. And, you know, I think we've heard some of that too, you know, from folks that have come before us and expressed their concerns with the legislation. So I think it's just a philosophical difference in that, you know, some of the advocates would like the PAB, and some of the counties would like the PAB to be more of that investigative arm. And that's not what the General Assembly intended, right? Folks may disagree on whether that was right or wrong, but that wasn't the intention. So I think, you know, you'll be seeing some pushback, at least for a little while, on that, because the law, again, is, you know, just under 3 years old, and they don't often like to go back and correct themselves, if you will, without, you know, having a little bit more data and information. And if you recall, some of the PABs got started incredibly late. So it's not like everybody's even had 3 years to really provide reporting and data. So, Sean.
You actually answered my question along with Moya. My question was going to be, what needs to be done? Like what was the missing information for it to not pass? And you both talked about it, so thank you.
What about What about the bill for the expanding, or I guess less lowering the requirements? Is that something, is there anything in the rejection of that kind of waves a flag for us to talk about with our constituent agencies? Or
I know from listening to the hearings, there were certain senators that were really not liking the idea of taking away the citizenship requirement. And I think that was a barrier really to going forward on this bill. I don't know if that's something that we want to get involved in. But I mean, I'll defer to the board since it's just the requirements of hiring police officers. But, if you all said that there's something that you want to do to advocate or get involved with, obviously let Jeanette know and we can vote on that. But I think the main barrier from the questionings that I was hearing was the citizenship requirement.
And I don't recall, Moya, I don't know if you remember whether any of the agencies came out in support of the legislation. So, right, if you don't have
Yeah, I don't remember seeing
agencies
any.
or the state police kind of being supportive, that's always gonna cause a pause. And I think the citizenship requirements, it's gonna be very prohibitive. But if it was amended to exclude that and maybe address some of the concerns, and
Right.
some legislators that take notes and they listen and they work with opposition, or they work with stakeholders or with other colleagues to try to address the concerns to get legislation to where, it's more amenable, folks are more amenable to passing, or that addresses the concerns. But then you have legislators that will introduce the same exact bill the next session. And,
that one is interesting in particular because I know I think it was Arundel County was actually saying they were going to raise their requirements. In fact, they were starting to think about having college as a requirement, which would seem to be a great trend. Personally, I mean, that's just my personal opinion, to have people that have more, critical reasoning and exposure to some of the post-secondary opportunities to have a position of prominent, to make those positions amenable or attractive to them. I thought that was actually a good thing. So it's interesting to hear that there was legislation going in the opposite direction.
And I would mention that at the hearing, Kim, there was something being said, these requirements for entry level police officers. So they did make a point to mention if you still wanted to be a sergeant or lieutenant, you'd have to still have higher requirements, for example, a college education or what have you, or AA or whatever it is to pass the sergeant's test or what have you. So these requirements were for the entry level police officers. And I think, Kim, you'd asked a question about tolling. So this statute does not have tolling, but Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, the previous bill, LEOBR, did have a tolling feature, is that correct?
I do not. LEOBR, I litigated that a number of times. I don't recall a tolling statute. There's nothing that prohibits the ACC from going forward while there's a pending criminal trial. But what it does is it makes it a lot messy. As a former prosecutor, we don't want a civil investigation to start and them to have witness statements and witness interviews, and to create more opportunities for the defense to cross-examine those witnesses when they already have one statement. So preferably you'd wait until the criminal matter is concluded, because if they're found guilty, a lot of times that we're done, right? Case is over.
Right.
The only question is if they get cleared, and then there's still some administrative sanctions. But we're just gonna have to do the best we can. I'm surprised because I thought, Moya, that a lot of the ACCs across the state were on board with that. So
yeah, I believe all of them, and all the ACCs, all the PABs had them in their annual, not all, but a majority had them in their annual report as well. So I really thought that this bill, out of everyone, would have passed, but.
Yeah,
Maybe
and
tolling is something you can look into. Tom, I'm an ex-prosecutor too. So, I mean, I totally understand what you're saying. It just seems like that's the easiest way to do it. And that's already a
we can align it with current existing
with the
language and law.
civil, with the
Yeah,
civil courts. I mean, that's what they have to do all the time.
yeah.
You all
Well,
might
you have
remember
three
that from the
things,
O.J.
right?
Simpson trial, where he had to speak out against himself in the civil trial and explain everything, where in the criminal trial, he didn't even have to take the stand. So it makes sense, and there's constitutional protections for sure, but tolling just seems like the easiest way to go.
The only other comment I'd add to the conversation is this shortage of police officers. There was recently Lester Holt had a piece on that in the last 60 days about the nationwide shortage of police officers. So it's nice to hear that they're thinking about ways to try to help our local departments, but it doesn't sound like we've really come up with a solution just yet.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that feedback, Tom. That was helpful. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think that some of the things to the ACC in the 1 year and a day got lost in translation on the House side. The Senate seemed to have really they got it, like they understood. So I think that's, the sponsors will have to work to be able to explain, those questions. And then by the time the House felt comfortable, it was like late in the game. So yeah, so we've shared our report with those committees, and they're aware of our recommendations. I got responses from many legislators, but that's an opportunity for us as a board to, weigh in, maybe submit testimony next session, or, collaborate with these sponsors during the interim to be helpful, given that seems to have broad support amongst the PABs. Any other questions, comments? All right, we'll move on to the next. Moya will also provide us an update with an ACC update on the work that they're doing and trends that they're seeing in the cases.
Thank you again. So Jen, I had her compile some data since our annual report. So this data is coming from December 1st of 2023 through May 16th of 2024. So since December of 2023, the ACC has looked at, I'm looking at the outcomes by charge. I'm not doing by officers because some officers may have 4 or 5 charges. So this is just by charges basis. And since December 1st of 2023, the ACC has not administratively charged 55 charges, and they have administratively charged 15 charges. Out of the 55 that were not administratively charged, 38 were exonerated and 17 were unfounded. Then the ACC does have a disciplinary matrix that they do have to follow. So there's also a breakdown for categories. There was 1 category A, 12 category Bs, 1 category C, and 1 category E that were administratively charged. And there's also a breakdown of the discipline as well. Regarding trends, of the administratively charged charges, 1 was conduct, 5 was conduct unbecoming, 2 were courtesy complaints, 1 has to do with field interviews, 2 had to do with incidents requiring a written report, 2 had to do with response to resistance and aggression, 2 had to do with unsatisfactory performance. So those are the 15 that were administratively charged. The not administratively charged, there were 8 abuse of authority, 3 conduct, 2 conduct unbecoming, 3 conformance to the law, 3 courtesy, 5 discrimination and harassment, 6 execution of a warrant, 1 facial hair, 1 failure to perform required duties, 2 issues with field interviews, 1 necessary force and proportional force complaint, 1 neglect of duty, 1 operation and care of department vehicles, 1 dealing with police discretion and alternatives to arrest, 1 dealing with preliminary investigation steps, 1 involving proper performance of duties, 7 dealing with response to resistance and aggression, 2 dealing with search and seizure, 4 dealing with unsatisfactory performance, 1 dealing with how they're wearing their uniform, and 1 dealing with writs or other legal papers. So those are the breakdowns of the ones that were charged and ones were not charged. And then out of the agencies, Crofton, they had 1.6% of cases that were sent to the ACC. Annapolis had 23.4% of cases that were sent to the ACC. The sheriff's office had 26.6% of cases that were sent to the ACC. And the county police had 48.4% of the cases that the ACC reviewed. So those are the trends that we're seeing so far from between December of 2023 and May of 2024. The ACC does have a meeting coming up tomorrow where they'll be hearing, I believe, 4 or 5 cases. Is there any questions?
Well, you were so thorough. Thank you so much. That's really helpful. We really appreciate that information. Seems like they've gotten complaints that run the gamut of potential complaints, and I guess it's a good thing that we're not, that most of them
Yeah.
are being unfounded or exonerated, even better, right?
Right.
It's not that our officers are not practicing police misconduct at these high levels. So that's a good thing. But that's why we have the process in place and all the layers of oversight and review to be able to work through that. So thank you for all your work, and Jen and Sarah. Sarah, I appreciate you. And I know it's been a lot of long hours of review, and the end is near for you. So we'll celebrate after July 1.
I
but,
want to mention, oh, sorry, Jeanette, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, Sarah's my designee on the ACC, and the work of the ACC, it's a lot. They are reviewing lots of, paperwork, investigatory files, body cam, and truly grateful for the work that you and your colleagues on the ACC are doing, because it is a lot of work, and but it's necessary, it's needed, and I don't think folks really understand the level of commitment that you've dedicated to that work. So thank you.
Yes, definitely. Thanks to Sarah. I want to mention too that the ACC is now at full strength. They're back to having 5 members. The newest member starts tomorrow and has already jumped into the cases. It's going to be ready to deliberate tomorrow. So we're really excited about that. So we're full strength again with the ACC starting tomorrow. And also, I just wanted to give a public shout out to Jen, who just loves data, and she loves to get me everything I ask for, and she just sleeps and breathes and eats these data. So thank you, Jen. I appreciate it.
No, we appreciate it. Thank you. Absolutely. Super helpful. All right. Any other questions or comments? All right. Moving right along. All right. Well, we're nearing the end here. Did we see, I was looking periodically, I didn't see Miss Davis pop up. Did you see? Okay, we have someone raise their hand. Is this for public comment?
You have one attendee who has raised their hand. I don't know. I assume it's for public comment.
Okay, Miss Reed, are they able to write in the chat, or?
They're not, no.
I guess if you can unmute, is this for, did you want to provide a public comment at this time? Miss Reed? Did you want to provide public comment at this time? I see it go mute and unmute, but we're not hearing anything from you. Okay, I don't know if you're having technical issues, but you can certainly submit something written to the PAB. If you would like to submit written comment, we will certainly review it. You can send it to me. It's a PABORT22@aacounty.com.
Org. aacounty.org.
Yeah, aacounty.org. So
you can also send it to the entire board at pabcomments@aacounty.org.
Perfect.
That way, everybody on the Zoom will get a copy of it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry you're having technical issues. And certainly if you are welcome to come to our next meeting if you prefer to give. We're gonna finish up. If you resolve your technical issue by the time we end, we'll give you some time. So I'll move on to the next agenda item, which is just some announcements. So I just have some administrative announcements. Please be sure to check your emails regularly. Jen is sending us emails that we need to respond to. We're getting stuff from the county as well. And then I think, we get we have to update our passwords every so often, or we have to do the IT training, which I think is coming up for us. So make sure you're checking that. And the IT training, I know you can stop and start. So that's a plus. You don't have to finish it all in one sitting. But please make sure you finish that before the due date.
Can I just add really quickly, sorry,
Yeah.
Jeanette, before you move on? The county has a policy that you guys need to access your email at a minimum every 30 days, or you will automatically be locked out, as I know some of you have unfortunately found out. Hey, I wasn't going to call anybody out, but so just keep that as a reminder to log in maybe once a week. Most of my stuff is not super time sensitive for you guys. So once a week, we'll meet that requirement to sign in and also get you the information you need. Thanks,
Yeah.
Jeanette.
I check it every day, and it's that one day on Thursday where I checked it at 4:30, and then I have 7 emails on Monday morning. I'm oh shoot, I need to respond. So I try to check it daily, but I'm probably getting things that you guys aren't getting. But yeah, just once a week, pick a day, check in, and then if not, then Jen or I will send, or Moya will send you a text message to friendly reminder. And then as part of that, our conflict of interest documentation that is required by county law is due. So you should have received an email last week from Gina with the county. So if you have not done so, please fill out that form. You have to do it annually. It's an annual ethics requirement, and send it off to her ASAP. And then we were trying to get to the African American History Museum, and unfortunately too many conflicts with folks' schedules, but we're still working with the instructors to find a time to go to the museum. Perhaps early fall might work better once everybody's done with summer schedules and that sort of thing. So definitely keep an eye out for that. And then also Jen and Moya are out there looking, for activities and events and things that we can go to. Not a lot at this time, but certainly when they see things, they will send it to us. And it'll be, kind of a first come, first serve, because we can't have a quorum. But if you come across anything or you're aware of anything through your organizations or just your community involvement, please send it our way if you think it's something that the board would be interested in, because that way we can share it with everyone. And we've reached out to the local organizations, just kind of reminding them. Moya reaches out, hey, if you have anything, please let us know. Same thing with the agencies. We've asked them if there's anything that they have coming up to, just let us know with time so that folks can plan for it. So we'll continue to do that, and certainly keep everyone updated when we have potential activities for folks to participate in or attend. And that was it as far as announcements. Moya, Jen, did you have anything else?
I did not.
All right, did anybody have anything else? Okay, our next meeting will be back on the regular schedule of the 4th Monday due to the Memorial Day Monday. We're a week early this week, but we will meet on Monday, June 24th for our LEA quarterly update. So we'll be hearing from the law enforcement agencies. We'll also have somebody from the county to talk to us about outreach to the LGBTQ community in the county. So it should be a good meeting, and then it'll be the last meeting for a few of us. So we look forward to seeing everyone there. It's a virtual meeting. So we'll see you on Monday, June 24th at 6:30 p.m. If there is nothing else, just wanted to check really quick to see if Miss Reed resolved her technical issues. Okay, I don't see her popping up, raising her hand. Okay, well, if there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Oh, she just got her hand up. Can we try? You
Okay,
have,
yeah.
can we try? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Ms. Reed, I'm unmuting you.
Can you
should
guys
be
hear
able
me
to-
now?
We
Here
can
we
hear you
go.
now, yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
I went to my phone. I was on my work computer, so I was like, let me just leave and go to my phone. I don't think my computer wants me to Zoom. I hate to come on the meeting this way, but I've been so nervous of how to go about doing it. I wanted to speak to one of you guys, like meet with you all in person. I've been trying to file something against the police since 2019, and I'm just finding out almost 5 years now where everybody is located. I've been getting like the runaround that there was even a Police Accountability Act, even officers telling me they were part of it and they wasn't, to steer me away. But I have a lot of disturbing videos and stuff, and I'm nervous to do it because I have went as far as to internal affairs, and they kind of got me and my family a little scared to speak. So I just want to see someone in person. I'm nervous to send out emails because some way, somehow it gets back to Eastern District and it goes left. So that's what I was trying to say. I was trying to see if I had someone can meet with me so I can show them. I was currently with Fair Housing. They did a chronicalized order of everything I've been through to help me. So I can show you all that so you can get a feel of what's been going on. But I also have video and stuff. And the police have even came to my house 7 cars deep telling me to take stuff down off of social media. So yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm glad you're able to get connected. I'm sorry that you're dealing with what you're dealing with. So a couple of things. Our jurisdiction doesn't begin until 2021. So it's for cases July 1st, 2021, and later is the Police Accountability Board's jurisdiction. However, you can certainly, I know you don't want to email, so I don't know if Jen or Moya or my number, if you want to give one of us a call, we can share that information with you, a number for you to call to help guide you and like how you would be able to file that complaint. I know that, you know, that some of the agencies have like community liaisons and folks that, you know, assist the public with filing complaints or answering questions and things of that nature. So if whatever route that you've tried to take in the past, you don't feel has been helpful to you, we can certainly help you identify a different route where you can, you know, where you feel comfortable and you're able to submit the information that you have. So we can help facilitate that to the appropriate person. Whoever you feel the most comfortable, I suppose, chatting with, I'm happy to send you, you know, my number if that's helpful.
Ms. Reed, we'll get your information and reach out to you. You can also, if you did not want to go through the police department's website, you could also file a complaint directly with our office and we will, you know, get that information over to them. But if you give us your information, we'll be able to reach out to you to give you the next steps. Yeah, she doesn't, I believe, Jen says she does not have chat features, so.
Oh, okay, so what email would be the best if you want to email? My email's PABORT22@aacounty.org. So if you want to send your information, and again, we have on our website, thank you, Moya, for saying that, a complaint submission form. So even though it technically doesn't fall within our jurisdiction because of the time in which the law came into effect, we'll certainly receive it. We're able to get it to the correct, thanks, Jen sent over the link for that form, so you can submit that complaint. We'll receive it and we're able to route it to the appropriate individuals at the agency. And Jen also put her email down too. Thanks, Jen. I hope that's helpful. Yep, you should see the link to the form and emails for contacts to be able to send information, and we can help facilitate getting that to the correct individuals at the county police department. Okay. All right. Okay, if there are no other questions, comments, or there's no other business, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting? Let's see, Sean.
So
is there a
moved.
second? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, this meeting is adjourned. We will see everyone on Monday, June 24th. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening.